Ready.
All right, you're up.
We're up.
Yep.
Good evening. I'd like to call this Board of Selectmen's meeting on January 23rd, 2020 to order at 6:02 PM. First order of business would be to approve the January 9th, 2020 Selectmen meeting minutes. Got a motion?
Motion. Second.
All in favor? The ayes have it. Next item is the public forum. This is an opportunity for anyone who wishes to address the board this evening with anything that is not currently on our agenda to do so. Seeing none. We are now going to have a series of public hearings for liquor and liquor license applications. The first one will be taken individually, then we have a series that we'll take as a group. To consider a new liquor license application submitted by Shea Rosa LLC DBA Shea Rosa Bistro, which is at the old Bandaloop location. I'd like to open this public hearing. Do I have a motion to open?
Second.
All in favor? We are open. Do I have any public comment?
Do we have anyone here representing Shea Rosa?
Yep.
Would you
It's not necessary, but would you like to speak at the microphone? If you want to speak, you have to speak there only because people at home can't hear you in the audience. We're not going to shame you into it, and it won't change our decision. But we'd certainly like to know who you are and welcome you to the community.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Yasmin Saraya, and I'm opening a restaurant with my husband, Kyle Robinson. He's originally from Kennebunk, and we met out west. We moved back to Maine to be close to his family, to work at the restaurant 555 in Portland, Maine. He's the head chef over there, and I'm the general manager. And we decided that it was time for us to do our own thing. So we are happy to end up where he grew up. We did a 360 circle, and we're happy to be part of this community.
Well,
Do you want to tell
welcome.
us anything about the restaurant, when you're hoping to open, and what people might expect?
Yeah, we're hoping to have like friends and family soft openings on the last week of March, and we're hoping for April 2nd to open. It's gonna be a French bistro, comfort food, very classic French with a focus on seafood. Since we have such great resources in here, and I think that's it.
I have a question. Since you're from 555, would you have the mac and cheese with truffles?
No, I don't think the owner would be really happy about that.
Let me tell you, it would go big in this town.
I know it's a
Just
huge
saying.
it's a huge dish, but we don't feel comfortable with that, so it won't be part of the
Don't
menu.
pressure them, Pat. Don't use your influence.
You mean I gotta go to Portland to
Yep.
555 to get that meal?
I think so, sir.
Well, thank you very much.
Of course.
Any other comments? Okay.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank you so much.
Do I have a motion to close this hearing?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor? Public hearing closed. Do I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion that we approve the application.
Second the motion.
All in favor? So moved. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, for the next public hearings, I have several here. I'll just read out the names, and then we will open the public hearing. First is the Boathouse, Kennebunkport LLC DBA, the Boathouse Hotel, 21 Ocean Avenue. Then we have that's for a liquor license, and we also have a special amusement permit for the same. Public hearing to consider a new liquor license application submitted by Kennebunkport Inn LLC in Dock Square. Also special amusement for said location. Public hearing to consider a new liquor license submitted by Cape Arundel Inn, DBA Cape Arundel Inn on Ocean Ave. Also for a special amusement permit for the same. Public hearing to consider a new liquor license application submitted by Ivy One LLC DBA The Clubhouse at Cape Arundel on Old Fort Avenue. Also special amusement for the same. public hearing to consider a new liquor license application submitted by Hidden Pond, LLC DBA Hidden Pond, Goose Rocks Road, Oslo Special Amusement for same. Public hearing to consider a new liquor license application submitted by Tides Beach Club, LLC Tides Beach Club, Kings Highway, also special amusement permit for same. Public hearing to consider a liquor license application submitted by Lodge on the Cove, LLC DBA Lodge on the Cove, 29 South Main Street, also special amusement permit for same. And last but not least, public hearing to consider a new liquor license application submitted by Yachtsman Hospitality, LLC DBA Yachtsman Hotel and Marina Club on Ocean Avenue, and also special amusement for the same. Do I have a motion to open the public hearing?
I so move.
Second?
All those in favor? We are now open. At this time, we will take comment. Tim, would you like to speak this evening?
Try this again. So, like I said before, the good news or the
So
bad
who-
news?
who are
I'm
you
Tim
ag-
Harrington.
Okay.
From KRC, and Tim Harrington from EOS Regional Hospitality. So you're still stuck with me, whether that, you think that's a good thing or bad thing. So I'm a partner in the new company, and we're very excited. Our employees stay the same, our managing director stays the same, and we hope to continue our tradition of hospitality here on the Kennebunks.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other comment?
I got a question. Is it okay if I ask?
Absolutely,
Public.
absolutely.
You gotta help me because I'm 6 or 7 years removed from the selectman's office here, trying to remember. When I'm looking at EOS Regional Resorts LLC, and there's no.
What number is that one?
This one, they're all the same, so.
Oh, okay.
You can pick either one. Anyway, there's no address for EOS. There's a mailing address, which I know well, and there's no member, there's no members of that LLC indicated. And Tim is there as the general manager. I know Tim pretty well. My only question is, what have we done in the past? I know that this is a EOS, where are they headquartered, Tim?
So our corporate headquarters.
So-
would be in-
Tim, do you mind coming to the microphone so folks at home can hear
So
you?
our corporate headquarters are gonna be in Kennebunk. They've just re-upped a 5-year lease.
Are you part of the
I'm a
old?
partner in the new company.
Okay,
So,
but
yes.
that just says you're a general manager with no ownership.
Yeah, well, Ralph, I think we addressed this.
Let me
in the-
finish my
okay,
question
sorry,
first, then
yes.
you can. Are you part of the EOS out of Florida? Or EOS out of,
Their corporate offices are in New York.
okay,
That's where they house their offices, and this is a new company that we formed to buy KRC from KRC, and I'm a partner in the new company.
okay, but this says that you're not.
It's the way the form is, so, okay, sorry.
Okay,
What the,
Ralph Austin representing both KRC and EOS. The form can be confusing because Tim does not individually have an ownership interest in these properties. He's a member of the new group EOS, and EOS has 100% ownership of the properties, and he is a member of that group. But individually, he does not have an ownership interest in the properties.
okay, so my second question then, as I was going through this, I'm just worried about liability down the road, okay? So generally, we would say it's owned by EOS and doing business as. This indicates the application that these are all separate companies.
They're separate companies now.
Oh, I understand that,
Right,
but.
and all the EOS is doing is buying the membership interest of the current members of Kennebunkport, of these various entities. So the entities will remain. Tides Beach Club
I
is still
understand
owned
that,
by
but
Tides,
EOS
yeah.
is the owner.
Will be the owner
Yeah.
of each of those entities.
So-
Just like KRC, it's kind of, it's in the same way
Yeah,
that
yeah.
these are all the exact same companies that own them now.
Okay, so my question then is one of the liability in the future, so it's just, Ralph, I'll ask you.
Right, I thought, as I understood it, because what we looked at was whether or not they needed new liquor licenses, because the companies were being maintained, and it is about the amount what is it, 10% is my memory, or it was a small percentage of membership in the ownership that had to change in order for a new liquor license to be
Right, if it
required.
changes by more than 10%.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, these are all outstanding places. That's not a question. I just wanted to understand the ownership and if we had any liability here in town of Kennebunkport, that's all.
It's no different than what the board did 2 months ago when.
I wasn't here.
I know, I know, but it was a different ownership group at that time. That didn't work out, so Tim is partnering with a different group now.
Okay.
But I think all the
So the
information's
portion
there.
that was owned by other partners is being sold, but the entity, the skeleton of the company is remaining.
Correct,
Is that right? Okay.
correct.
I got it. Yeah.
Sense to
Thank you
me.
very much.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Do we have any other comment, questions? Okay, I move, do I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Motion to close?
Second?
All in favor? Public hearing is closed. Do I have a motion to approve these as written?
So,
Second?
All in favor? Congratulations.
Yes. Thanks, Dan.
Good luck.
Thanks, Ralph.
Okay, moving on to, believe it or not, item 21, presentation of annual investment reports. That's pretty good, because we only have 26 items, and the 26 is adjournment.
she's going to, put that up there.
Put it up somewhere.
Where are you going to put it?
Oh, right behind us.
Oh, there it is over there too, so, over there too.
Yeah.
Get your
That's
glasses.
where I figured.
Well, thank you for having us. I'm Molly Reinfried with HM Payson. Dan Lay is here as well. And we have a report for you as of the end of calendar year, but it's the end of Q2 fiscal year. So I'll walk you through the presentation. Feel free to ask questions along the way, and we'll certainly leave plenty of time at the end to talk through any items you want to touch on. There are hard copies here as well for anyone in the room, so feel free. If we start on page 1, just to give an overview of the asset allocation for the town funds. So the total funds are just over 1.5 million as of the end of 12/31. The split up of those funds is about 75% stocks, 25% cash and bonds. So the policy weight is about 70%, but we have the range to go beyond that. So we are at 75%, a little bit over the policy, but pretty much in line with where we want to be. And a lot of that is due to the accumulation that you'll see, the growth we saw in the portfolio last year has grown the equity portion of the portfolio.
How often do we upgrade our allocations or our recommended allocations?
We review the policy annually with
Annually?
the committee, just to make sure that there's no meaningful changes.
Okay.
We meet in between that time.
Right, right. Yeah, at a minimum, it's being looked at annually.
So part of this is the education of me. so
Yeah,
it's,
absolutely. No, feel free to interrupt. So if we go to page 2, you'll get an overview of the performance. So we've been working with the town for just shy of 5 years now, so a little over 4.5 years. So your inception to date is gonna be your longest term. If we start with the near term, just to give a sense of things, fiscal year to date will show you the last 6 months. So the total account return 10.5% compared to the benchmark of 7.4. If you look at the line above that where it says equity, you'll see that's where the majority of the return is coming from. So the stocks in the portfolio returned a little over 13% compared to the benchmark of about 10. Moving along, if you look at the previous 1 year, that'll be the calendar year return. So in 2019, the portfolio returned just shy of 24%. Previous 3 years returned 13.5%, and inception to date just shy of 9%. So it's within the more recent term, the fiscal year to date and the previous 1 year numbers, we have seen outperformance to the benchmark on the equity side. It is worth noting that the emerging market and the foreign exposure we've had in the portfolio has been a little bit of a drag on the portfolio. The U.S. Stock component has outperformed beyond this, but again, we're comfortable with that looking forward in how the portfolio is positioned. The other thing worth noting is, we have a cash and bond allocation. The returns there are obviously not as strong as what we're seeing in the equity market, but remember that the cash and bonds are the capital preservation of the portfolio, so it's gonna dampen volatility, it'll provide liquidity if needed, but really the function of this portfolio is to grow the income that we're able to generate so that we can get that out to the beneficiaries. And we can talk about how that's grown over time as well. We go on to page 3. This is more of a graphical version of that performance. So to give you a sense in real dollars what the portfolio's done, the blue line will show you the market value, and the red line will show you the net investment. So any dollars, if you kind of think about it as if that money had just gone under the mattress, where would you be? So obviously, getting the funds invested, looking out more long-term has really benefited the town funds. If we look at inception to date, we started at just shy of 1.2 million, been able to distribute over 100,000, and the investment gain over that period of time is just over 500,000, which gets us to the 1.5.
What do you mean by net contribution? It's a negative, so.
Right, so it's any money coming in minus money coming out. So the majority of that, as we'll see on the next page, is the distributions that we're making annually, which is
The trust.
the income. A little bit of that, and it's really just more of an accounting thing, is, any foreign expense fees that are paid. There's a little bit of expenses that fall into that category as well.
So it's a net number.
Right, but in this case, there haven't been funds coming in. There's only been funds going out. And that's where that red line will show you how it's declining over time, and you can see how those annual distributions have gone out.
Okay.
But yes, on page 4, you'll see that, on the chart there, what's really helpful here to see is, as the years have gone on, how the income has been able to grow. So we manage the funds all together as one pool of funds, but there are actually 3 different trusts within those funds with different beneficiaries, and we do the sub-accounting for that. Kittredge Trust is the majority of the funds, and that's where we've been able to grow the income, and that's what's benefiting the fire departments of the town. So in 2019, we're distributing just shy of 30,000
Is there a
of
cap
income.
on how much can be distributed each year?
Yep, so as of the past 2 years, it's a 4% withdrawal rate, and it's based on a rolling 3-year portfolio value. So it's,
So
in 1 year, it's
maximum
not
is-
gonna bounce. It's an
maximum is
average.
4?
Maximum is
Maximum
4%,
4.
yeah. It's actually, it has to be 4%. So that's the finite number. And again, that's where we're comfortable with the mix, because we wanna have the higher equity allocation to meet that, while having a little bit of cash and bonds in there to keep the funds stable.
Okay.
But so the growing income has been beneficial to the beneficiaries. And that's a function too of the dividends and interest within the portfolio have grown by having the stock allocation. The dividends are, at this point, paying out at a higher rate, or pretty close to what a bond would be paying out at, but you're getting that annual growth on the dividend as well. And then if you look to the next page here, what we're really looking at and starting to get into more detail on the actual equity portfolio. So this is looking at just the equities within the portfolio, but showing you a summary of different characteristics that we look at. So again, just by background, H.M. Payson is an investment manager, but we have our own in-house research department. So the ideas that are going into the portfolio are done by our research group, using some outside research, but all decisions are made in-house. So the philosophy there is that we want to be buying good, high-quality companies at good prices, growing their income, whether it's through dividends or earnings, and being able to have a long-term outlook within that portfolio. So here's a number of the characteristics that we look at, just to give you a sense of how that compares to the broader market. We're comparing the portfolio to the S&P 500. So the price to earnings is lower than the S&P 500. That's a positive, meaning it's a little bit less expensive than the market. Dividends are 2 compared to 1.8, so having that higher dividend yield is greater income for the portfolio. Payout ratio is about even, but it's at a comfortable level to us. Return on invested capital is where we'd expect to see the biggest gap between our portfolio and the market. It's important to us that the companies we're investing in are not only paying money out to their dividends, but any money that they're reinvesting in the company has a good growth associated with it. So they're able to prove the fact that their reinvestments have been positive to their growing business. And again, the long-term debt to capitals, we don't want to be taking on companies that are highly leveraged. So all of that together shows you a V ratio, which is our own internal tool, so you might not find it when you Google it, but you can see the calculation for it up on the right. But the idea being there, the higher the number, the better. One would be an optimal V ratio, and very difficult to find in this market environment, but seeing that number be higher than the market is positive. And what this analysis really helps us with is feel comfortable with the portfolio going forward. So we reviewed the performance, obviously happy with how things have gone, but we also want to make sure we're well positioned going forward into the next year or two. We can skip over page 5 because we have the same information on page 6 with a little bit more detail. So on the left-hand side, you can see how our stock portfolio compares to the broader market. You'll obviously see some differences here with a little bit more in tech, and especially on the bottom half, a fair amount of underweight as it relates to consumer staples, energy, utilities, real estate materials. Those sectors tend to be much more capital intensive, so it's harder to get that return on invested capital that I was talking to. So the table on the right with the green is showing you where we see value, and how we're determining that is return on tangible assets and what's called the economic margin. So in these sectors, those spaces tend to have better return on their assets, and economic margin meaning that they have more room to grow. They're able to create a margin of safety, but also that competitive edge, structural advantage that we're looking for. And so we're not buying stocks based on what sector they sit in. We're looking for companies that have the characteristics we're looking for, but based on these characteristics, this is where we're seeing the overweights in the portfolio.
So you're buying individual stocks and trading in individual stocks, you're not doing ETFs or anything?
We're doing individual stocks for the US portion of the portfolio.
And
To
then
the
you do
extent
it-
we have international, we're using mutual funds or exchange traded funds. Yep.
That makes sense.
Molly, the green is the return on assets for the last year. In other words, the entire year of 2019, is that right, Dan?
Is it back a year, the return on tangible assets?
That's the current, yes, I'm sorry. Yes, that's the current return on assets based on the last 4 quarters.
4 quarters?
Right.
Okay.
And since you asked about the specific companies, if you go to the next page, this will show you the top 10 holdings in the portfolio. So to give you a sense of the type of companies we're investing in, and then the characteristics that go along with them. Now these, just again, for clarification purposes, these percentages are weights of the equity portion of the portfolio.
Can I get a list of all of the portfolio?
Yep, happy to share holdings list. I know I sort of ran through that, I apologize, I talk quickly sometimes, so any questions or anything you want to go back to?
I used to know numbers.
Dan's happy to answer any of your questions.
Do you have any questions, guys?
No, I just, someday I'd like to understand some of your methods of stock pick. I don't want to learn how I just want to know that we're taking a look at how you take a look at it, how you do the analysis, that's all. So,
And we've spoken to this before and invited some of the folks up, but we have a regular weekly meeting of our research group with the portfolio managers, and all folks who are interested in attending on Thursday mornings at 9 o'clock. And so any of the select board members are welcome to attend and encouraged. It's fun, it's informative, usually a pretty vibrant discussion.
been a little bit easier the last couple of years, too.
It has been, although remember, 2018 was a negative year in the
Yeah, it
market.
was,
So
yeah.
one of the reasons that we've got such a gap between the portfolio performance and what the broader markets have done and how we've outperformed is that we tend to underperform when markets are really ebullient, like 2019, even though we outperformed in 2019. But 2018, for example, when the market was down 4.5%, our equity portfolios were up just shy of 2% on an absolute basis. So protecting the assets on the downside, particularly on the institutional client side and with municipalities in particular. So some would call it a conservative approach, but it's a lot of elbow grease that goes into
Yeah, I can imagine.
the research to pick the individual names. So.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
So Jen, could you just tell people what the distribution we'll be making to the fire companies is and how much to each?
Want us to wait around a little bit more?
I think you could wait a minute, yeah.
Okay, so per the Kittredge will, we will be dispersing 16% of the income, where the total 4% income is $31,863.29. Wildwood would get 16%, $5,098.13. The Village Fire Company gets 36%, $11,470.78. Cape Porpoise Fire gets 24%, as does Goose Rocks, totaling $7,647.19 each.
And what was the total again?
$31,863.29.
Yeah, and I would certainly say that working with HM Payson these past few years has really improved the amount of money that we've been able to distribute. And I remember the first few months after they took over, the market had a downturn, and Jen was like, I'm reporting negative numbers. And she's like, do you want me to report? Yes, that's what it is, long-term. So certainly it's the long-term approach, but I think it's been working for us.
It has, thank you.
And just so Mike knows, we do have our investment committee. Each year, the selectmen appoint to who's going to serve on what. And right now, it's Alan and Pat are serving on the investment committee, along with Bob McCrillis is our citizen. But certainly, if people are interested in attending another meeting, or as Dan said, he has invited people to go to their weekly meetings to learn more about their process and understand it. It's an important piece for the community.
Where are you located?
We have offices in Portland and Damascus.
Portland?
Portland's our main office.
That's where the meeting's held.
We can go to 555 if you come.
It's not open at that time.
Mac and cheese.
At 9 o'clock, but that's where you have the meeting.
That's correct, yeah,
Right.
with the Portland office.
I'd like to do that.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
So you guys would normally take a motion to accept the annual report.
Do I have a motion?
I move we accept the report as given.
Do I have a second, Mike?
Second.
All in favor? So moved.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
See
Yeah.
you.
Good job, thanks.
See you
Thanks,
next
Molly.
year.
Take care.
Number 22, consider waiving building permit and wastewater impact fees for 2 homes built by Habitat for Humanity at 36 Mills Road.
We can get an update from Amy.
Yeah, Amy, would you like to come up and tell us, before we vote on this, tell everybody how you're coming along on this project?
So we're coming along pretty well. I think we legally have split the lot now, so we're able to do 2
Amy,
homes.
can you just introduce, say
sorry.
your name and introduce yourself to
Sure.
the folks at home?
My name is Amy Nucci. I'm the executive director at Habitat for Humanity, York County. So the progress we've made at 36 Mills Road, we were able to legally split the lot into 2 buildable lots. We're hoping to get a start this spring or early summer on the property. Our plan is to demolish the existing house and build a little bit further back from the road. And we have to do a little bit of site work to prepare it for 2 houses, but we're excited about where we are in terms of planning. I have an architect's rendering of our house design, which I can pass around. My architect did caution me to say it's a rendering, so we may not have the same, may not have hydrangeas, but that's our house design that we're planning to do for both homes there.
That's for both of them?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Have you already selected the families?
We haven't yet. I think that what we'll probably, our plan right now is to do the site work, pour both foundations and then build the houses one at a time. So we'll probably select one family this spring and then select another family when we're getting ready to do the construction on the second home. So we'll probably be selecting one at a time.
I know I can't say this, but find families with kids. We need children in this community.
We have never done a home for anyone without children, actually. The way that our selection process works, it heavily favors folks with children.
That'll be
Good to hear.
great. Well, you know, if you need help with the demolition, our fire department is looking for buildings to burn down for
We've
training.
actually-
No, seriously, for
We've actually
training.
been in touch, and
Oh, okay.
I think it's a little too close to burn, but it might be useful for some other exercises.
It's more practice.
Let them practice sawing holes through the roof. So, well, thank you
Thank you.
very much,
Thank you.
Amy. Is there any discussion or questions from the board? Do I have a motion to waive these fees?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? So moved.
All right, thank you very
Congratulations.
much. We're excited to be here.
Amy, have you been down to Georgia at all, down to the headquarters, or?
I've been to Atlanta for training several times, but I've never been to Americus.
You never
where-
made it to America?
No, not yet, but
I lived there for 9 years.
really?
Yeah, I did.
One
On-
century.
We won't hold it against you.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll have to talk. That's
America's
great.
Georgia, yeah.
Yeah.
That's great.
Thank
It's a
you.
great organization.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. Number 23, accept a donation of $1,000 from the Atlantic Firemen's Education. Well, I'm reading it and they didn't print it right. It's the the Atlantic Firemen's Educational Association, which is Atlantic Hall.
Right.
I served on their board for many years. To the Emergency Fuel Fund.
So moved. Thank you.
Second.
Second, yes. All those in favor? Motion passes. Thank you, with much appreciation to the folks down at Atlantic Hall. Number 24 would be other business.
Right here.
Jim?
No, nothing.
I don't have anything.
Since I'm not the real chairman, I don't have anything. Lori?
I don't have
Perfect.
any.
Do I have a motion for the treasurer's warrants?
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor? And a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you for coming out this evening.
When are you doing the first tastings? I want to be there.
Amy? You have a second?
A little bit of.